Okay. Good evening, everyone that's participating in person and also remotely to this public meeting for the Gannett Drive reconstruction project. This is a crazy period of time in our lives, and we appreciate the opportunity to still conduct a public meeting to receive your feedback before we start this very important project. And before doing so, I'd like to make a few introductions and also say thank you to a number of individuals. My name is Kyle Butterfield. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Riverton. And we have with us on the dais Brendan Toman. He's to my right. He is the city engineer. We have Jerry Bornhoff of Jerry Bornhoff Construction. He is the contractor for this job. And Monty Nordwick is to the left of Jerry. He is the city's construction manager and will be the point of contact for residents that will be affected by this project. This project is the culmination of many years of work, and I can say that it predates my tenure with the City of Riverton. A lot of credit goes to my predecessor, Mr. Bill Urbakite, for his acknowledgement of the issue of this project and for starting the ball rolling to getting improvements made. This is a project funded by the 1% Fund and has been managed by the Fix Our Road Citizen Committee. And we express gratitude to that committee for their oversight over the last few years and for making several attempts over the years to assess the problem of Gannett Drive and to bring it to this point where we can now make some improvements on the road. This project was designed by a consultant. HDR engineers came on board almost 2 years ago to help design and produce plans for this project. And it was a very involved process. The first phase was to drill monitoring wells so that we could understand as a city what was happening below the surface. Many of you residents who live in the area know the water table that is there. And so addressing the surface problems required addressing the subsurface problems as well, and understanding what we were dealing with before we took a backhoe out there and just started digging. So credit to HDR engineer and to all the stakeholders who have been involved. And lastly, you as residents, those of you in the audience and those who are watching remotely, we appreciate your involvement in civic government. It's important to hear the voices of our community. It's important for you to be involved. And this project has had several public meetings. It's had several opportunities for public comment, and we appreciate those who have been involved because without your involvement, these types of projects cannot be completed. So with that long preamble, I'll now turn the time over to Brendan Toman. He'll give us a little bit more of a background on the details of the project, but do you mind if I take a little bit more time?
I think you should actually, because there's this as well. Go ahead and mention the.
Yes. See, I need people to keep me on task.
Thank you.
And my staff definitely know that I can be a little long-winded, unfortunately. Those of you who are participating in this public meeting remotely, please make note that you can submit comments digitally, and we are monitoring them live. And so if you submit a comment, we will read it and respond so that you will be able to participate even if you aren't with us. The way to participate remotely is to submit an email to the following address: public.meeting@rivertonwy.gov. And I'll repeat that: public.meeting@rivertonwy.gov. We would appreciate your participation even if you can't be here in person. And maybe just one other thing to mention, I alluded to some of the subsurface problems that we have dealt with over the years, and a lot of it is groundwater issues for this neighborhood and this street specifically. But maybe I should point out, for those of you who are watching that don't live on Gannett Drive, Gannett Drive has one of the worst pavement conditions in the city of Riverton. We like to make decisions on a quantitative basis, not a qualitative basis, or a subjective basis. So we actually hired a consultant several years ago to analyze each of the streets within the city of Riverton and Gannett Drive scored one of the worst. And so, from a quantitative perspective, this road requires work. The project, as designed by HDR engineers, will address the poor pavement condition, it will address the poor concrete condition in the curb and gutter, but more importantly, it will address, like I mentioned, some of the subsurface problems. While the road is tore up, we will replace failing water and sewer utilities, but more importantly, we'll work to dry up that road. There's an engineered geofabric that will be utilized, and there will also be under drains to help dry the road so that we don't have the issues with subsurface water that through the seasons actually cause the road to swell and contract very dramatically. Those of you in the audience are smiling because you've seen those roller coaster conditions in the springtime, and you've also seen the geysers that come up at the different points of the property. So there's no exaggeration that this area required a lot of work, and we're happy to be at the point where we are because we're confident we can provide a lasting solution to these problems that have been going on for a long time. Okay. With that, I'd like to turn the time to Brendan Toman, and we'll open up this public meeting for further comment.
Thank you, Kyle. And again, for those that have any questions, go ahead and submit them by the public.meeting@riverton.gov address at any point in time so we can see those. We're working through this along with you. It is an interesting time, but also an interesting process for us as well. So be a little patient with us, if you would. But again, I'll go through a few items on the along the project, or specific to this project. I will also turn it over to Jerry Bornhoff for a little bit, and then Monty Nordwick, our construction manager, who will be on site as this project is constructed. So we've signed a notice to proceed with Jerry Bornhoff Construction to begin May 20th. This doesn't mean construction will begin right at that point, but Jerry can begin getting us his material submittals and other items to get lined up for construction. Most likely, we'll start after Memorial Day with this project. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, probably even maybe a week after that, probably June 1st.
Right in there, yes.
Okay. To start with, Jerry will have a temporary water line that'll hook up all of the homes. The nice thing about this system, there won't be necessarily fire flow, though we can provide that if needed in there. But there will be, you will not see a disruption in your water system for more than maybe, I want to say 2 minutes, but it might be 20. So when you just switch over a home really quick after the temporary system's in place, and am I right with that, Jerry?
Yep, correct, Brandon. It'll be within a couple hours for sure. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, guaranteed no longer than 2 hours. When we switch the main water line over, or their water service, when we do the water main tie-in, we may have like a 4-hour shutdown on that, but that's going to be a one-time deal. Yeah.
You bet. All any cuts in services such as the water, sewer, God forbid, which I don't think we'll run into that, but water, we will provide 24 hours notice, and the contractor will provide that notice. So in the form of door hangers. Also on our website, we will provide notice to residents as well as we can, and our Facebook page as well. So that's something we've been working a little more to kind of provide some of the project milestones and then updates to residents through both of those platforms. So once the water system there's a temporary water system in place, the contractor will start, Jerry Bornhoff will start with the sewer system and replace that throughout the street. Along with that, there will be a storm drain system that'll come after that as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few points down. So again, we're looking at an agenda, as you might have seen on the live streaming of the meeting, but then also those in the audience have a copy of this agenda. We've got about 10 points here, and I'm down to about number 4 right now. So, concrete removal and replacement of this project will be mostly curb and gutter. I believe all the curb and gutter is replaced throughout the project, and Gannett Drive and Big Bend Drive. Sidewalks, so this is an important note for homeowners that we want to bring up tonight as well. Sidewalks, the 1% committee has voted not to have sidewalks as a major part of this project. That being said, we replace sidewalk where it needs to meet ADA standards, American with Disability Act standards. But if a homeowner wants to replace sidewalk in front of their home, this would be an excellent time to work with the contractor on this project to do more concrete in that area. So I wanted to bring that up. That's something that the city would rather the homeowner worked right with the contractor, but we can help facilitate that to get the conversation started, and then we'd hope to back away from there. So. There's also be another item as far as stormwater runoff in your homes from your home site as well. But also, while construction is going on, we ask that you limit the runoff from sprinkler systems in your yard onto the construction site. There's a few reasons for that. A couple of them is that excess water will go and saturate the material, the base, and sometimes go into the trenches and cause unnecessary water on the site that'll then have to be dewatered and taken off the site. So we just ask that you be a little conscientious about how long either your sprinklers run or what zones you run while the contractor's there. So this will be a staged construction, and what will happen is throughout the street, as the sewer's getting placed in, the contractor will move down the street and occupy a different spot in the street. The goal is always to maintain at least one lane, so there's always access through the street. And then if you need to, if driveway is blocked off, the idea is not to have it blocked off for more than 8 hours and get the resident back into your home by evening. If there's deviation in that, we'll give notice to the homeowners and work with each homeowner and provide at least a 24-hour notice. I think that was my next note, actually. I think one other item here that I have as well is the underground drain system. So part of this project will be along with sewer and water, which we're both in disrepair. We were just talking about a water break that happened there last Sunday, where crews had to band it 3 different times to get it put back together. So it's seen its share of water breaks in this area. And it's a big headache relieved when this water line will go in. But there will be this underground drain system that Kyle spoke of. It will be below grade right within the street and drain everything underneath the street. But the important thing about this system is homeowners are given the option to tie into this drain system. For the most part, the drain system is right inside the curb and gutter in the street. A couple spots it comes outside the curb and gutter. But we ask that you do tie into it. We also ask that homeowners do pay for the cost to connect there, but connect at this time if you can. Understand if you have a system that works and it's going in a different direction, but if you want to tie into that system, now is the best time to do that, and then to work with the contractor to tie into that.
Could you repeat that again, please? I didn't understand that completely.
Yep, you bet.
Yep, and just for those in the audience, we do have a question, those who are in our remote audience, I should say. We have a question from our audience here about that under drain system, and just further clarification.
There is design into this project an underground drain system, and it's included below grade at the roadway edges. So homeowners are encouraged to tie in any private drain systems into this system. So if you have a French drain system, for instance, around your home, and you're encouraged to do it at this time as well. Homeowners need only to pay for the cost to connect, and they can work this out with the contractor.
So this under drain system is really the way we're going to dry up the road. And it's a pretty ingenious design in the sense that that engineered fabric that will be underneath the road is a wicking fabric. So any excess moisture that exists under the road after it's already been redesigned with a new profile, that includes subgrade, road base, and asphalt. But right in the middle there, sandwiched in, is that fabric, and it will wick any water within that road right of way to the side of the street. And as Brendan mentioned, it will be underneath the curb, and that drain system then will tie into essentially almost like a storm drain system. So we call this an under drain. It's not a storm drain system. It's really an under drain system that allows for the roadway to dry up. But we designed it to be large enough for you as property owners to tie into it, because we know several of you have groundwater issues on your private property, and you've been handling that in various ways over the years. And because it is a private property issue, that's why it would need to be paid for by each of you individually. But we've upsized the pipe for this under drain system to at least allow for appropriate sizing if you do choose to tie on. And all we'd need is you to make sure that either Monty or Mr. Bornhoff know, so we can phase it at the right time. Probably won't be a good idea to do it after we put blacktop down. So if you can do that earlier rather than later, we'll see some success. And for those in the audience, you could come and approach the podium if you'd like. You don't have to.
If we're already using a French drain going into that, you are aware of that, so we don't need to contact you?
So any existing under drain systems or a French drain system, it is not tied into this new line because it doesn't exist. That sounded bad, but what you're tied into is a different infrastructure line or a different system, which is an old system, and probably, well, I should back up. We don't have a good understanding of how all of those old systems work through the neighborhood. But this newer system will be available for you to tie into if you want to switch the drain system from your private property. So we've kind of worked through the bullet points that we thought were important to highlight, but we know we haven't addressed all of your concerns or questions. We have had no email submissions. So again, if you are watching remotely, you have a question or would like some clarification, please again feel free to utilize your email account and email us those questions at public.meeting@rivertonwy.gov. With that said, if it's okay, Jerry, could we turn some time to you if you'd like to make a couple comments maybe about communication to the residents, about notices for parking and impact on accesses or anything of that nature? I know Brendan touched on it, but we couldn't let you off the hook. You got to say a few things.
All right, well, glad you guys all showed up, and I'm Jerry Bornoff. It's going to be a privilege working down there for you guys. We know most of you, a lot of you live in that area down there. And we're going to try to do the best we can to less impact as possible. Like when we're working on a sewer main, it won't be that you're not going to be able to get to your house for like the whole project. It's going to work in spells. It'll be 3 or 4 days when we're doing the sewer main on your end of the project. That at nighttime we'll have access where you get your cars into your yards and into your driveways. But there'll be times during the day when we're digging on the main that we'll have to have your cars parked on the other end. But it won't be a long spell, like I say, 3 or 4 days, and we'll be done in that area. And on the other end of the project, we'll keep all of our equipment and materials out of the way, so when we are working on your end of the project, especially on water and sewer, it gives you guys the whole other end of the project to park your vehicles, so you're not in there with our construction vehicles, and we're not trying to haul pipe and stuff back. So what we've decided to do on this project is we'll stockpile all of our stowed materials at my shop, and we'll haul them in as needed. So we won't have a whole bunch of materials cluttering the neighborhood up. We'll just try to bring things in as we need it because of the tight area we got. And we'll do the best we can to, if you guys want something special, you need something, don't be scared to ask us. The guys I got on my job site are real respectful, and if they're not, I need to know about it. But no, they do great work, and if you just talk to them, ask them, tell them what your needs are, and I'm sure they'll do whatever they can to take care of the problem. And like I say, if there is something that you guys see that you don't like, let us know about it. We can't fix it if we don't know about it, so don't be scared to talk to us. And other than that, looking forward to working with you guys.
We,
Yes.
A question. On the west end by the tennis court, where in the plans does it show what the paving's going to be?
This is a good question for those of you watching remotely. A question was posed from the audience about the west end of Gannett and the extent of the project and if it will go close to the tennis court that's located there. The brief answer to that is the project will not go that far west, and it does not wrap around to Mr. Vosica's property. The reason for that is it is not public right-of-way. There is public right-of-way basically to the
fire hydrant.
I was trying to think of a good landmark to the fire hydrant that's located on the west end. So as you get to the very extreme west end of that road, and then before it starts veering to the right, that's where the public right-of-way ends, and that's where this project will end. We will not encroach near the tennis court area or the turnaround area that is paved there, that is actually private property. So the extent of the project, again, just to repeat, is only within the public right-of-way and will not encroach onto the private property. Follow-up question.
Has Mr. Bosica or one of his representatives talked to you about possibly doing some additional paving up closer to the tennis court?
Yeah, the question was whether or not the property owner on the west end has been in touch with the city, and the answer is yes, he has. And we did work with Mr. Vosica about easements that were, or I should say, potential easements for that area. And ultimately, through those conversations, it was decided to leave the project just within the right-of-way of the public sphere.
So, if we wanted to, when the pavement was done, if we wanted to bring that on around in front of the tennis court and into my driveway, which is the far west end, I'm the last house on the north side. If we wanted to work with Mr. Barnoff before he paved to take it a little further, we could do that.
So those, again, watching from home, there was a follow-up question as to whether or not it would be possible for residents to work with the contractor to do some additional paving on that private ground. And I would think that that is a definite possibility, but that would just need to be coordinated outside of the bounds of this public contract and need to be negotiated with the contractor and the private residents.
Okay, so then we'll go directly to Mr. Barnoff, and we won't need to take that through money.
Yeah, another follow-up question was whether or not that would have to go through our construction inspector with the city, and the answer is no. And that is because the city does not have jurisdiction for anything that occurs on the private property side. And we want to honor private property rights and stay out of it.
Follow up, you know that the city, garbage people, both for yard waste and for picking up our own trash and the United States Postal Service, that is used as a public thoroughfare.
So follow-up on that was a statement as to solid waste and also U.S. Postal Service delivery that goes onto that private property. Yes, we are aware of that, and it is very similar to solid waste collection on any private property. We access commercial private properties all the time to collect their solid waste. If that is not amenable to the property owners there, we can work out another collection point, but it wouldn't be as close to their homes. So we do know that city garbage trucks and other government vehicles access that private area, which is not public right-of-way or public property. But for the collection of solid waste, as I mentioned, it is very common practice to access private areas so that we can collect the refuse that's generated by the residents. But we can definitely work with the property owners adjacent to that area and work out another collection location if that is the decision of those property owners.
One final question. Where in the plans, are you is there any effort to relocate where my property at 1614 Gannett Drive hooks into the city sewer line?
The question was whether this particular owner can tie into the sewer line at a different location
No,
than what's shown on the plans.
that's not the question.
Okay.
Are you planning to, if you were, force me to change where my house sewer line connects to the city sewer line?
So the
Remember, the three houses on the west end are not part of the Gilpatrick construction subdivision.
So the question is specific to an individual property owner's sewer service connection point, and perhaps we can work with you directly at the close of this meeting. We'll show you on the plans and discuss the connection point for your sewer, and we can locate and visualize where it's at. Okay, yeah, if we can get you a page number, you can look at that as well. We do have a few comments coming in from our virtual audience, and I'd like to have those addressed at this time. But before doing so, I did want to comment. Mr. Bornhoff mentioned that he knows a lot of the folks, and he is utilizing the proximity of his yard. And maybe this is just appropriate to say these 1% funds are great, but it's even greater that we're using local firms for it. I mean, how great is it that Mr. Bornhoff knows the area, is close to the area, and is able to care about Riverton and you as residents to do this Riverton project? I think it's pretty awesome.
I do want to stress too, Kyle, I don't know if we've given Monty Nordwick enough notice as well. He will be at the project. He will be the construction coordinator and the project representative. And I think he'll work to the residents' advantage there to help to coordinate efforts in that area, and then to bring, if you want to work through the city with this project, to talk with Monty. His phone number is listed here. As I'm available as well, but I think you'd benefit to go through him to start there, and we typically talk about a lot of these issues and can take care of them as they come up. So,
And if you happen to see me on the site, on the location anywhere, just stop and talk to me. I'll be happy to discuss whatever you need to discuss.
Yeah, you really think of Monty as your representative on this project. He works for the city, he works for you. So if there are questions, concerns, as Jerry mentioned, his folks are very amenable, but so is Monty, and he is your representative with the city on this project, and he'll work directly with the contractor and with you on any concerns or questions.
Do you have a cell phone number you can share with us?
I thought we had that on the,
I think his office number's on there, but
I can give you my cell number too, it's just fine. Sure.
typically we list those on projects, so.
Yeah.
And if he wants to do that privately, that's fine.
we'll make sure everybody has Monty's contact information. His office line is listed here on the agenda, but if you do contact City Hall, we'll be able to route you to Monty very easily. And he's very
If you
responsive.
have my number, feel free to use it, the cell number.
Okay, so I'm very happy that our email correspondence is working. I'll be honest, this is the first time we've done a public meeting like this, and we were a little worried that we didn't know how it was going to work out. And much credit goes to our IT team and Adam Wyrick. That guy's a genius on IT-related matters, and he's very much helping us tonight. So this first emailed question comes in, and it is about the groundwater system. It says, will there be groundwater mitigation within the scope of the project? not just the membrane within the road. For instance, many homeowners near the cul-de-sac have issues with groundwater within their crawl spaces. Some of this has been alleviated through the drain system at the top of the road. Will there be additional mitigation efforts with this? And I believe the best way to answer this question is that under drain system that will be on both the north and south side of the roadway underneath the curb line. That will collect the water that's wicked from that membrane, but it will also allow for connection from private property owners if you are having any water issues on your private property. Again, that will be the responsibility of the private property owner to connect to that system, but we encourage it, we welcome it, because we have sized that line appropriately for residents who do desire to connect so that they may have a solution to this question where there's water in the crawl space.
I think I can follow up with that as well, and then take a question. Looks like in the audience that system will run throughout the project on both sides of the road. It's approximately 3 foot deep. So with groundwater, a lot of times when you start to pull water from about 3 foot, you'll see what they call a cone of depression down into that system. So you might experience in your property and for a little bit of ways, water being pulled from your property, and so it should dewater a little bit. I'm not going to say it will, but you are invited to also tie into theirs with any system you have, and then you should see a little bit of dewatering throughout the entire roadway project there. And just the nature of how that system is. Pulls water from the road, but also it's a filter to where it'll draw a little bit of water potentially from the property. So it won't go far, but that would be the only extent you might see on your property, and then encouraged to tie in. So
Awesome, excellent. We have a question from the audience, and we have two more.
Are there not drains coming down through that entire area to try and drain that area out? Or are we just ignoring those drains and we're worrying about the surface more or less? I think that's what they were referring to. In the original plan, there were drains all through there to dry that property out.
So the question is whether or not there are existing drains all throughout the subdivision that are helping to alleviate the groundwater. The answer to that question is yes, there are, and we know there are. We know some of you have tied into those, but through the lengthy design portion of this project and even through the public comment portions, all of those systems are not identifiable. They're not owned by the city of Riverton. They were put in years ago. They were put in maybe at a progressive rate, meaning that they were put in at different times. And so we do not have an understanding of all of those drain lines. There's no map of them. The residents don't have a map of them. The original construction did not document them. So those of you who utilize some of those private systems should utilize them and see them just as that, they're private systems. My personal opinion is they were probably installed at the time of the subdivision construction to help dry up the area, but they're not documented. And if they are, no one has that documentation. And if they do, please come forward because we do not have it. HDR worked very diligently to try and find those and especially see if there were a potential option as part of the design we currently have now to help with the roadway and the groundwater there. But through that process, it was clear there needed to be, for lack of a better term, a city utility or a city owned, documented, and operated drain system for that roadway. And that's what that under drain system is that we've talked about. There are a few different irrigation or drain lines you know of that work through the west end of that neighborhood. I think that's separate of what you're talking about. But some of those other systems, whether they tie into existing storm or under drain lines or sanitary sewer lines, which by the way, you can't do, is unknown because it's all underground, and until we can get those goggles that can see underground, there's no way to map it accurately. So the best way to handle it is to build this system that will take care of the road, but be sized appropriately for you private residents to utilize as well. I hope that answered that question.
I don't like the answer, but it answers it.
He says it answers the question, but doesn't like the answer.
I think I could follow up just a little bit, not that it would totally answer the question, but there are two lines that we do know of, one an irrigation and one a drain that cross the road, and we will just replace that area where it crosses the right of way, and it'll be replaced. Of course, a lot of those drain lines that are in effect right now are probably they're probably not working to the greatest extent that they could, just because of root problems. So if you have old drain systems, this might be a good time to think about upgrading a French drain system around your home, and use this new system.
And we'll preserve anything that we come across, or the contractor will. We'll very much encourage it. As we're digging up the roadway, and if there is something that is undocumented, unmapped, and to this point unknown, we're not just going to dig through it and say, well, I wonder what that was, we better just bury it. We'll protect it and take care of it in every way that we can. And I appreciated the comment that a lot of these are probably 40 years old, some of them 30. There's a lot of root infiltration. Who knows what the pipe condition is? Who knows what the pipe material is? And there's a potential for crushed pipe, cracked pipe, egging pipe, just pipe issues in general that will affect the efficiency of how it drains. But those things that are existing will stay existing. We're not replacing them. We're just providing a better option that, one, we know works and we know will help that roadway. Okay, the next two comments that have come in virtually or through the email are very similar. The first is, when is the expected completion date of the project? And the next is, what is the estimated timeline of the project? If it starts on the 20th of May, do you have an end date you are shooting for? And I'll let Mr. Bornhoff address this, as he probably knows this, or Brendan or Monty, because we do have that in the contract docs.
Oh. You're killing me here. We do have in the contract an end date of October 30th. That's a Friday, October 30th, with a substantial completion, and then 2 weeks later, a final completion. Those dates are set on those dates because after that point in time, it becomes hard to lay asphalt. Also, I know Jerry's working on a kind of accelerated schedule to get in and get the job done, and then move out. So I don't believe we'll go to those dates, but those are the dates that are defined in the contract. And Jerry or Monty, go ahead, feel free to add more.
No, Brandon was right on that. We're planning on being done before that, sometime before it. Hopefully everything goes good, and we will be done well before the end of the project date.
Okay. Are there any other questions from those in the audience? We'll also be available once we get off the dais, and we'd be happy to show anything on the plans as you have questions or provide any other information. And the same goes for anybody in the audience. You're always welcome to call City Hall. You're always welcome to come by. While we're working through the restrictions related to the COVID pandemic, we are very precautious, and we try and protect the public safety as much as possible. So if you do come, you'll be required to check in, and that will allow city staff to prepare a room that is disinfected, that will have appropriate spacing so we can sit and discuss your questions. But we are available. We've not stopped working through this whole pandemic, and we will continue to work and be available for anybody that needs us. Maybe I can mention one thing that came to my mind, and that is with access and concrete. Some of you will have, well, actually all of you will have a little bit of impact because the curb and gutter in front of your properties are going to be replaced. Curb and gutter takes time to cure. And so even though it's hard to walk on, it's not good enough to drive on. So don't be frustrated if you see that curb and gutter or the approach be poured back in and you're still not allowed to drive on it for a number of days. The reason for that is we want to give you a lasting product. And if you drive on that concrete while it's still green or fresh or curing, you will compromise the integrity and structural strength of that concrete. So patience is truly a virtue when you're dealing with concrete, and it is frustrating when you're blocked from accessing your house or your driveway, but it will pay off. If you wait the appropriate time for that concrete to cure, you will have a good product in front of your home for many years to come. Those who drive over, and I've seen it several times, that get impatient and drive over fresh concrete always regret it because it cracks and then it has issues. So just be aware of that we will do everything we can to give you access, but your patience will be appreciated while we build this project so that we can have a good, lasting product for many years to come. Okay, well, we're not receiving any other email comments, and maybe I'll just look around the dais and make sure I give one last shot. Monty, do you have any parting comments?
Just looking forward to getting started and have a nice summer in your neighborhood.
Jerry, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, we're probably gonna make your neighborhood look a little ugly this summer, but we're gonna make it look really pretty by the end of summer.
Yeah, we'll
Wonderful. Brendan?
Yeah, we encourage patience, but also clear communication and to come to us. We are working to make this a smooth project as we can. I think it's a great engineered project, a great design with HDR and Kyle Lato and Lander putting that together. So I'm really excited, and I think we can make a great project out of this.
Okay. Everyone, we have one other comment.
Is it possible to have any access from the end of Gannett Drive where nothing is built there? Would you let any of us pull in down there to make it easier for you?
The question is whether or not there can be temporary access accommodated on the east end of Gannett Drive where there's the cul-de-sac and a vacant lot. And the answer to that currently is no, there's not permission given from the private property owner for that purpose. Great question. All great questions. Again, we'll be around to address any others or show anything specific on the plans, but thank you to those in our community who are watching virtually. I'm just thrilled this was a success. We're going to do this again for another one of our 1% projects. We appreciate your participation. I can honestly say I personally appreciate the work of the individuals to my right and left, and for the many others who have been involved in this project for so many years. And construction season is the best time of year. I don't care what anybody says, because we're getting stuff done. It is inconvenient, but it's the best, because Riverton's getting better. With that, everyone, good night, and thank you again for your participation.
Yes, thank you.